Okay, we are going to take a look at another DBA army. I'm cranking some of these armies out today. Hopefully I can finish this one before my video recorder unexplainably cuts out like it did on the Normans here. But at least I got all the elements on the Normans, just cut out my goodbye speech basically. So anyway, we are going to show you the Norse Viking army that I have down. And this is from book 3, list 40. Covers the years 790 AD all the way up until 1280 AD. And the list covers Norse armies from the first Viking raids on Britain until the establishment of the feudal system in their homeland. Viking armies are those composed of volunteers for overseas raiding expeditions or the forces of Viking colonies such as Jorvik, Dublin, Orkney, Isle of Man, or Novgorod, but not of the Hebrides. We distinguish between early undisciplined collections of the Viking raiders and the large, more controlled raiding armies under jarls or kings from 850 on. Leading armies were Norwegian, Danish, including the south of what is now Sweden, or Swedish royal levies, and were used for home defense or more aggressive wars. Most wars are classed as blades, most warriors are classed as blades because of the universal ownership of swords and axes and the stress placed on individual weapon skills. Bows were also carried by individuals, but mainly used on shipboard, although archers could occasionally be sent out to skirmish, except for a small number of slightly insane berserkers, mainly employed as a chief's tax collectors and bully boys. They were too disciplined to be classed as warband. Huscarls are taken to be the most skilled and uniformly armored men, nobles, and their professional followers. Herd were the mass of the army. Bodner, plural of bondi, were respectable small farmers tied to their land who could only be shifted from it by more important people using considerable force. They are assumed to have less skill in mail than huscarls, but more mail and experience, though less youthful vigor from the younger members of the herd, who are likely to have been their surplus sons. Thralls were unfree peasants and farm laborers. This particular army is the book 3, list 40B, as in Bravo. It's the regular Viking army from 850 to 1280 AD, and it is a pretty simple army actually. It is going to have one general in Huscarls, which is going to be a 4-blade unit. Then you're going to have 10 herd elements, which are all going to be 4-blade. And you are going to be allowed the optional choice of one element, which can be either archers, which can be Siloi or 4-bow, or berserkers, which is a 3 warband. And that's it. They're a littoral army, of course. Their aggression is 4, and they have a whole stack of historical enemies that you can pit them against. So they are quite a fun army to have here. We can go ahead and take a look really quickly. And here is going to be the general and the Huscarl element right here. Let me see if I can get a focus. There we go. It is going to focus. And that is them. Everything on these guys is hand painted. Here is the Berserker units, Berserker element, which is a 3 warband. And then we have the 4-bow. And then we have the 2 Siloi. And then we have the 10 herd units. So I have a mix of different miniatures here. Some of them are armored like Huscarls, and others are not armored, which would be more like your Bondi type. So that was one of the armored units. Here's one of the unarmored. I threw a guy with a bow in there in the middle. Here's another armored element. And I mainly did that, well, just I wanted, the elements to be unique and and very colorful, such as a Viking army would have been. And so I chose to do that. Also, if I want in the future, if I want to start playing like Hail Caesar or something in 15 millimeter with a Viking force in the Dark Age, I already have the start of a pretty good army. You know, I have the different troop types, the armored, unarmored, etc., which I very well may do sometime in the distant future. Not any time close to now, I can tell you that. There's that. And I have one more element of the unarmored. And so I do have 2 extra elements. I have 1 extra element of the 4-blade here. And I also did a second general element like I do for many of my DBA armies. That way I have options as to, you know, if it's the same army as the other one, you know, just different unique stuff. I like doing it. It's a little static grass on that shield there. Let me see if I can. Looks a little better. So yeah, that is my Viking army. DBA, De Bellis Antiquitatis. I'm playing version 3.0 as of right now. I do enjoy the game. I haven't gotten the game in. It's been about a year since I've gotten the game in, but I'm getting ready to start breaking them out again because I'm working on some Mesoamerican stuff. I just finished up my Spanish army, Spanish Taxiclan, whatever. I can't pronounce that tribe's name, however. So I just finished them up. I have 2 more elements to base, and then I will do a video on them. I think they're a pretty cool DBA army. I'm excited to get into the to a whole different hemisphere in DBA gaming. All my DBA gaming has always been pretty much on the continent of Europe and or Africa, Northern Africa, but we're getting ready to move over to a whole different continent and hemisphere down in South America. I have some Mayans that I got to paint up. I have some Aztecs. Of course, like I said, I already got the Spanish and the Thaxiclans done. There is a couple other options in there, which I will likely be adding here after I can finish all these other armies. Man, I got so many projects built up. I'm trying to crank them out one by one, you know, switching around, keep me motivated and entertained with the work I'm doing, and we'll get there eventually. Anyway, guys, thanks for checking this one out. Stay safe, and I will see you next time.